first drill, we're going to approach this where, as the guy doing this doctrine, I'm attacking. My opponent is just defending himself. He's being very passive, just so I can focus on making these actions work. We'll move on to a drill where our opponent is maybe a bit more creative in just a moment. So how this is going to work, Carlos is going to stand before me in long point. If as you go on you find, you maybe want to try out different guards, feel free to, but this is probably the most common kind of opponent you're going to encounter. So let's start with that. So for me, I have my 4 options, which are, just to remind you, I can either attempt to thrust Carlos directly, I can try to trigger a displacement and cut to his arm, I can fake that and then thrust to his chest, or anywhere in there that it makes sense, but probably for our purposes, after going through those actions previously, I can do it sparingly. Now, I don't have to do them all in that order. These are just the order which I think makes the most sense. I start going for his arm, then I go for his chest, then I go for his head. But I could also do a couple things. One of those things is if I think Carlos is likely to be able to defend himself against, say, the first or second versions of those things, I can just go in with the plan that I'm going to, say, trigger the displacement, trigger the block on this side, and then thrust to his chest is my final plan. Or I could even compress it a lot. I could try to trigger that displacement and immediately throw it out of the head if I think that works better. So, just to explain the rules, Carlos, as the defender, can't attack me. If he thinks I am getting too close to him, he can extend his sword and point it at my face just to show what his reach is. So, do you mind doing that? Yeah. So, I should be starting from outside of his reach to make this work. If I'm already within his reach, I'm too close and I'm opening myself up to being interrupted by his counterattacks. And basically, as the attacker, I'm going to do any combination of the moves in this doctrine that I think makes sense. To start with, I would suggest trying to follow the initial order that we did them in. But, once you feel a bit more comfortable with it, feel free to mix them up. As a defender, maybe be a little bit cooperative at first while your opponent is trying to sort of feel their way through it. But once your opponent has sort of gotten his head around it and has started doing them consistently, then be a little bit more defensive, be a little bit quicker, make it a bit more of a challenge. So yeah, Carlos is only going to defend himself unless he thinks I'm starting too close. I'm only going to attack. But as soon as I've exhausted, let's say, as soon as I've done a maximum of 4 moves trying to hit Carlos, if I haven't hit him by then, I have to retreat and I've failed to get through his defense.